Hi, my name is Amanda Dorston, and this is my final project. I chose to do a movie review for my diversity project. So the movie that I chose was 12 Years a Slave, which is based off a book by Solomon Northup, which is actually the main character in the movie. And I want to start out by saying that this movie was kind of disturbing. I didn't really find it entertaining at all. I think everyone should see it, and I can see why it won so many awards, but I think it was more disturbing because of how realistic the movie portrayed slavery back in the late 1800s. So the movie started off with Solomon Northup, who is a free black man living in Saratoga, New York, and he is a master violin player, and he goes around making money playing his violin at different shows across the state. And he was confronted by two men who were white who invited him to come play at the circus. And so he decided that in order to make a little bit of money, his wife and his kids were all out of town for another job. So during that time, he decided that he would go and he would make some money playing the violin for when they get back. So he leaves with the two white men, and while they were traveling, he was drugged and he woke up in chains in a basement, and he ended up being sold into slavery and was taken to New Orleans and was introduced into the slavery lifestyle, and he ended up working for 12 years as a slave. And during this time, he was trying to figure out what he needed to do, not only to survive, but to try and get himself out of the situation that he was in. So, um, most of the movie is taking place during these times that he was in slavery, and it showed different ways that he was trying to get in contact with his family. He was trying to write to them. He was one of the few slaves that was able to read and write. And then towards the end of the movie, he's on a job, and he meets a white Canadian abolitionist who he was able to give a letter and ended up being able to send it to his family. And then through that, his family was able to send someone to rescue him from slavery and return him home to his wife and children. And all of this was a total of 12 years, so his children were completely grown up and married and had kids. Um, so the ending, it left you satisfied, but it wasn't really one of those endings where you were really excited about it. So throughout this movie, the knowledge that I gained, I kind of was able to see a little bit more realistically about the common practices in the 1890s. It was just kind of, I guess, the movie was really realistic, and which is why I found it so disturbing. The opening scene involved a beating, which kind of just, I don't know, it was just really, I I don't know, I just really didn't like it. Obviously, because that's not a part of life today. Um, it's more disturbing now, and obviously it was just common practice then. Um, Additionally, there were a lot of lynchings throughout the movie, and it was really weird for me to see while people were getting lynched. Um, Other people in the background of the movie were just going along with their everyday life, and they didn't really even seem bothered by the fact that this was going on. And then another part of the movie that was interesting to me was the family separation. When they abducted all of the African Americans who were sold into slavery, when they were sold, they didn't care anything about keeping families together. There was a part where a mom and her two children were up for sale, and they ended up splitting all three of them apart in order to make the most money. So it had nothing to do with keeping people together in families. It had everything to do with making as much money as possible and getting the most out of the working slaves. This was a quote that I found really interesting in the movie. I wrote it down um, once I read it, but it says laws change, social systems crumble, universal truths are constant. It is a fact, it is a plain fact that what is true and right for all, white and blacks alike, which I think is basic. And this was a quote who from the white abolitionist, the Canadian who ended up freeing Solomon. And I just found this quote. I guess it holds true to, I think, not necessarily white and black, but I think it holds true to able and disabled and um, heterosexual and homosexual and males and females. So I think this is just something that across everything that we studied this semester is just kind of a universal quote. And then again, I learned a lot about, I think I have a better respect for those who are African American. I think even though the college students today didn't go through slavery, um, I don't think we recognize what they actually are thinking when um, the subject is brought up. I think that the color of one's skin being just the sole reason that somebody is treated completely different is ridiculous. And um, I think it's something important that we need to remember in order to really kind of grasp where people are coming from when you just don't understand why they say certain things and act a certain way. So, some personal implications that I found. Viewing the movie gave a small insight into how slavery affected everybody. Obviously, for African Americans, they were put in forced as hard labor, and you can still see it throughout the United States today and throughout the world today. And obviously, with recent issues in the media, um, racial tensions are still a common theme that we come across. Additionally, white Americans, I don't think we really understand what it's like to go through slavery. Obviously, we think it's kind of in the past, and um, we just assume that everybody should just kind of get over it when that's not really something that um, people are able to do. And then I have others, which is basically any other race, any other um, uh, group of individuals. I think the fact that slavery happened in America, I think most of the time, since it was African Americans, but at the same time, I think we still treat other races differently as well. And then empathy allows for consciousness of issues. So after watching this movie, obviously I don't know how it feels to go through slavery, but it gives you a little bit of an insight into what people went through. And you can see how just different, you're just conscious more, I guess, of different things. We learned in one of my other classes about racial microaggressions, which is an unconscious or a subconscious um, act that you don't see as aggressive towards a race, but you might um, offend the other people who you're speaking to. And then it allows you to empathize with other social justice issues, like I stated before. And professional implications. Since I work as an athletic trainer, I come across a very large population of diversity. I encounter people of all races, all sexualities, males, females, um, able, disabled, and this movie's kind of allowed me to view people in a different sense, I guess. Um, one story or one example, I guess, that I have is I took one of my athletes to get a cast on his arm this past week, and he was an African American athlete. And when asked what color cast he wanted, he asked for brown, and they didn't have brown. And that's just one of those things I was like, oh, well, I never thought of that, but it's definitely something that he's cognizant of, and it's something that I think that we all need to be cognizant of. Um, Again, like just giving someone a band-aid in my job, band-aids are usually more um, on the Caucasian side of the color scale. So obviously, for all of my white athletes, their band-aid can kind of blend in with their skin, whereas the black athletes, obviously, their band-aid's going to stick out on their arm, and I just have never thought of that before. And again, I just want to remain conscious of possible offensive behavior on my part. In order to do my job adequately, I need to have the trust of all of my athletes. And I think these racial microaggressions, like I was talking about before, I just need to be aware of some of the things that I say. I might not even realize that it's offensive, but it could be. And then again, white privilege is obvious in the United States right now, with the example of the arm casts and the band-aids. And we can look on TV, and the first thing we see usually is someone of the white race. So I think we just really need to be aware of that and make sure that we aren't offending anybody when we do that. So I can't say I enjoyed the movie, but I'm really glad that I watched the movie. And I kind of hope that everybody watches this movie because I think it's a good learning experience.